I wanted to talk a little bit about actually what the huddle is and where it came from. As a person who traveled to various conferences across the disciplines that I belong to, I would oftentimes have something called a mentor moment, which would be for a few hours, and I'd invite people who were newer to the field and would informally sometimes just sit at a table with them or formally have something like dinner served or food and talk and just listen and offer support, advice, answer questions to people. And the last time I actually did it was at one of the WEBA conferences, one of the, not the last one I attended, but there was a WEBA conference, and that was the last time I did it in person. And there are times that people contact me, ask me different questions, and so I started calling it having a mentor moment. And the point of that was just to explain or to emphasize that mentorship does not have to be this long standing, long lasting relationship. There are different types of mentors and mentor relationships. In fact, there is a publication, it's a thick publication, but it's by the National Science Foundation, and they had a listening tour throughout the engineering STEM fields. And behavior science was not included because I don't know how we don't include ourselves in STEM consistently, but I attended one, and it was at the National Science of, no, the National Society of Black Engineers in Detroit. And in fact, a mentor of mine was one of the developers or was one of the people that started this tour. She was responsible, one of the partners responsible for it. And she knew she'd be in Detroit. She knew I lived in the Detroit area. And I attended that. I was happy to see her, but I attended this listening tour where they asked people about mentorship. And from these different listening tours, they developed this manual of the different types of mentorship. And I think it's a good publication, and I've shared it with different people for the last few years. But mentor and having mentor moments with people, because I had them, were always important for me. In fact, growing up as a professional, before I became a speech pathologist and behavior analyst, there were people that I would meet at different conferences and sit down with them. And sometimes it was intentional, like my contacting them. Sometimes it was a running into them, but sometimes it was them contacting me if they were going to be in the area, we are going to be in the same place. But having those sit down moments where you could just talk to someone, ask them questions. Even now, I'll cold call or cold email someone if and ask for 15 minutes of their time just to one, start a relationship to see if this will work, but also to ask them a directed question about what it is that they are doing. So yep, that you saw right. And so when I think about the huddle, it is all of those things. It's all of those things. When I think about our profession, it needs all of those things. So the huddle is in addresses three areas. It is the clinical self. So the clinical mentorship, those clinical questions that people slide into someone else's direct messages and will ask them. I'm sure if many of you, like me, receive them frequently. And this is outside of where they work. People have real clinical questions, and so it will focus on three areas: your clinical self, your professional self, and your personal self, because those three are where you are met when you are providing services to your clients. Your ability to talk to parents, relate to parents, feel confident in that space is your professional and personal self with the inkling of your sprinkles of your clinical self. When you are providing services and talking to your colleagues that are lateral colleagues, meaning you all have the same role, title, and responsibility, and people who are your directional colleagues, whether it's directions down or directions up. So sometimes your self, your clinical self, your professional self will have to manage up in many ways. Been there, done it, don't like it, but it's a necessary tool. And there are times where you have to support and provide information to people who are doing direct services in a more intense way than you are, like our behavior technicians or our paraprofessionals or speech assistants, and you have to be able to communicate in a way that supports and honors the relationship of the directionality and also what it is that person needs to be a good end user of the information that you provide. So, three areas that the huddle will work on, will address: your clinical self, your professional self, and your personal self. How will we do that? Whew. We've created a platform to do that. So there is the mentoring connections, peer-to-peer mentorship. There is mentor guides that are ready and waiting to guide you through your cohort finite time with us. So the huddle is not forever. It is a cohort that you will be in. People will enter a cohort of time because mentor relationships change and they shift. And what you needed at the beginning of mentoring, you don't perhaps need at the end. But our goal is for you not to need as much at the end or need differently at the end. So there is the entrance into the huddle and you're part of a cohort, and 5 to 6 months later, you are in a different part. You are what we do in therapy. You're generalizing and you're getting support so you can maintain those skills. And so then there is a new cohort coming in because one, relationships change, and also because there's a lot of us. There's a lot of clinicians. There's a lot of people who could benefit from you as a person who is in the huddle, from getting the services of the huddle, but also from the fact that they'll get to know you inside of that. So we'll have monthly theme-based groups and meetings led by guest speakers surrounding a text that everyone will have access to. And then we have the professional self. And so that's where your mentor guides come in. And then you have your clinical self, and that's where the clinical forum and the case management that is interdisciplinary in nature, because it is possible to be mentored from an interprofessional, interdisciplinary perspective. When we talk about clinical care and your clinical self, those different perspectives matter. So the huddle, the site will open for everyone at the beginning of March. And the second Wednesday of each month is when you'll have your guest speakers. And then throughout, you'll have access to our CEU-based podcast. You'll have access to the clinical forum and can even put in a case and say, this is a case I'd like to present. So you get that kind of that practice and that mentored practice of what it means to present in a safe environment. We talk about psychological safety all the time. We talk about there are many things that we talk about in terms of lexicon, but building platforms, building communities, a professional learning community is really integral to the growth of people and the growth of a profession, because it's our responsibility to one another to be able to develop one another and to develop ourselves. Here's a story. because the huddle has been part of my life for a long time. I just didn't know it. So when we were graduating from college, I had it was five, it was four of us, four good friends, and all of us we're still friends now. And there was a time that we were all graduating from undergrad and we were going into different places. You know, people were going to law school, graduate school, and we weren't going to be together every day, supporting each other, having dinner at our apartment, doing all the things. And so our friend Nicola, we all exchanged gifts during the graduation season. And so our friend Nicola gave us this book called "Oh, the Places You'll Go." And she will probably be surprised that I still have my book. So to give some dates, we graduated in, and how old this book is, we graduated from college in 1997. So she gave us this book called "Oh, the Places You'll Go" by Dr. Seuss, and you thought, oh my gosh, you're giving us a children's book. And then she set us down and she read the book to us. And so I'm going to, so it says, there's a section in there that says, it's open there in the wide open air. Out there things can happen and frequently do to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew, just go right along because you'll start happening too. Oh, the places you will go. You'll be up on your way. You'll see great sights. You'll join the high flyers who soar to high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang and soon you'll take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest, except when you don't. Because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. So here, being in a huddle is not to prevent the bang-ups and the hang-ups. Being in the huddle is to give you the thought perspective, the support, and this is beyond a friend circle. It is mentored, experienced support to help you navigate through, to give you the real tools that you need from people who will tell you the truth in a supportive way, in a psychologically safe way, and guide you. And you get to stay in touch because even though you graduate from the cohort, you'll still be connected because that's been put in place too. So we have taken what we mean by ABA and intervention, and we have done it for ourselves inside of this cohort for the people who do the heart work of what we call clinical services. I thank you for your time, and I welcome you to join the huddle. We have Facebook pages, the huddle online. We are on Instagram. Follow us, Huddle Online. And we also have a LinkedIn page, the huddle. And you can always go to mentormoment.com. That's the page where we decided that we would park so that you could always stay in touch with us as our website opens March 1. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. And don't forget to find your people in all the places and always take the time to huddle.